From what Brent remembered from the letter he'd received the week before, detailing how the meeting would go down, the man's official title was some sort of liaison with the U.S. State Department, based out of the embassy in San Jose. And up close, even despite the sharp contours of his face, he looked much more like a kindly accountant than a menacing, secret operative. But if Brent had learned anything over the past 7 years, it was that there were few things in life that were actually black and white. Most things tended to be a mix of both. "Good morning, Mr. Beckley," the man said as he intercepted Brent a few feet from the entrance to the maze of blue rope. "My name is David Foster. It's nice to meet you." Brent shook the man's hand, trying to think of a response. When none was forthcoming, Foster extended his other hand, offering 2 documents. The first was instantly familiar: Brent's U.S. passport, the same passport he had turned over to the State Department 3 days earlier. Glancing at the document, Brent felt his mouth go dry. He could see, even without looking closely, that someone had punched 3 holes through the center of the cover. Each dark circle tore at the pit of Brent's stomach. There was something so permanent and real about the sight of that passport. Its mutilation seemed like such a malevolent and unnecessary act. A week earlier, when Brent had first made the decision to turn himself in, the U.S. Embassy had requested a copy of his passport. Brent had been happy to accommodate, offering them the original document so they could copy it themselves. They had promptly confiscated it. Now, he could see the result. It seemed to be just another step in a deceptive game. Brent had already agreed to surrender, and he was in the process of moving his family to the United States. Yet even that wasn't good enough. Foster appeared to read Brent's thoughts and quickly shifted the invalidated passport to the side, revealing the second document in his hand. A thin, similar-looking passport, this one with its cover still intact. Brent took both documents from the man, inspecting the second, smaller booklet, and saw that it was dated for a single day's use. Brent was still free to travel like any other American citizen for the next 24 hours. There was a moment of awkward silence, and then Brent finally shrugged, shoving the 2 passports into his suit pocket. "Now what?" he asked. Foster's expression turned soft, and he jerked his head toward the blue ropes behind him. "We've got an hour to kill before your flight. You want to get a cup of coffee?" It wasn't quite what Brent had expected, but again, none of this could have been anticipated. He nodded and followed the thin man toward immigration. It was the fastest Brent had ever moved through the Costa Rican airport. Usually security took forever, especially for young Americans like him. In Brent's experience, some of the native immigration officers seemed to take a special pleasure in hassling young American men traveling to and from the States. Brent assumed it had to do with the massive inequities between the 2 cultures. To the average Costa Rican, Americans were rich, entitled, and usually obnoxious. From what Brent had seen of the mobs of Northerners who kept the local tourist economy alive, usually large groups of men who spent mornings splayed out across the pristine beaches like bleating, bloated, bleached, and beached marine animals, and evenings carousing through the legal brothels that put red light districts around the world to shame, well, maybe the immigration officers weren't that far off. At the moment, Brent could only marvel as he was towed through immigration and security at a near Olympic pace. Foster seemed to know everyone who worked at the airport, and even more helpful, the man's Spanish was impeccable. He spoke like a native, though from what Brent could piece together, it appeared that Costa Rica was just one stop on a colorful, government-sponsored road trip that had extended from a military academy in Virginia, through a 5-year stint in Iraq, to a half-dozen embassies across South and Central America. Even if Foster wasn't a spy, he'd certainly lived like one. Yet by the time Brent lowered himself onto a stool in a quiet corner of a dingy coffee shop, just beyond the last security checkpoint before the waiting area for Continental Airlines, the carrier that would take him out of his adopted home for what might be forever, he felt as comfortable with the man as one could possibly be, under the circumstances. Foster wasn't a bad guy, and he wasn't the enemy. He just worked for them. Foster ordered for both of them, making small talk as the uniformed waitress brought them styrofoam cups